So hi guys. So in this video, we are going to solve a problem called find the highest altitude in lead code. Problem number 1732. So we are given an array, which is an integer array of n number of values, which has the gain. So basically, gain is the amount that we will get when we get from altitude point I to point J. So let's say I move from point 0 to point 5. My gain is 5. So what we are moving is it is like the units of movements is getting added. Like there are unit. Let's take the previous example 0 to 5, and the unit is 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and 2 to 3, and 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. So we totally get the gain value of 5. So now what we are going to do is we need to find the maximum altitude, the highest altitude of a point which we can get through all the road trip. Since we know how to calculate the altitude, the way to calculate the altitude is to subtract the previous altitude value from the altitude which you came from and the gain that you have gained. It's simple, right? So in the previous example, as I said, you have gained 5 units. So remove the 5 units and you will get the altitude which you were previously before, like where you came from. So we are going to use that. So I'm using Java here. So this is the array that we are going to use. Int altitude, where the size of the array is 1 point greater than the size of the gain. So why we are doing this is because we start with the altitude of 0. So it has given that we need to start with the point 0. The biker starts with the point 0. So that is the whole logic. A biker goes on a road trip, and the road trip consists of n plus 1 points at different altitudes. So altitude is definitely n plus 1, and the starting altitude is equal to 0. So we're also adding 0 to the altitude array. And now we need to find the gain. The gain accumulates the value of altitude. So we are going to find the altitude right now. So this sum falls under the category of prefix sum. So prefix sum, in this category of prefix sums, we are going to find the sum of the previous values. It can be done by using like adding, let's say this example, adding -4 to -3, and without for finding the sum in the second index, we are going to do, we will just add the value of previous index since it stores the sum of its previous indexes. So it is pretty simple over here. So let's just use an loop. So before that, we have known that we are going to return a maximum value, right? So we will just initiate an max value. Yeah. So we have initiated the max value of 0. So let's go. And for int I, this is to keep track of the index. Since we start from the second index, we are putting 1, and altitude's first value is always 0, as it was mentioned in the question itself. Now what we're going to do is add the value. So why we're using equal to here rather than just using the lesser than symbol? So I will explain when we go into the loop part, inside the loop part. So we need to find the sum of altitude of 5. For that, we need to add the previous altitude's value, where the previous altitude value is already the accumulated sum of its previous indexes plus the gain value, right? So we are adding the gain value rather than subtracting it, because in the previous example I told you how we are going to get the gain value from the altitude. So it is pretty much easier for us to add the values since we know how we have no idea on the previous altitude. I mean, the next altitudes, we can guess the previous altitude, right? So there is no point for that. So we'll just go with the adding the gain method. And yeah, the gain getting added. And here we have the altitude. So now we need to check whether the given altitude, I mean the computed altitude is lesser, I mean the greater than max. That is the condition, right? Greater than max and max equal to altitude. Since it's an array of 5. Okay. So yeah. Now what we're going to return is the maximum value of the altitude. So return altitude. But we have a variable called max, which we keep track for max values, right? So yeah. Yeah, obviously. So we are getting an error where the gain value, right? The gain value is getting the issue of it is not having the length. So the possible issue here is since I've used one, right, so I need to start from the 0th index. So let's just give I minus 1. It's always okay to debug in lead code. So yeah, that is the whole point of coding. You are not greater than anyone, and no one is how am I say, comparison is a killer in coding. But yeah, sometimes let's say in competitive coding you should always get ahead of some people, but that doesn't mean you need to compete with everyone when you are learning. Okay, that's fine anyways. So yeah, our solution has been accepted. So thank you everyone for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next video with some other topic. I've took the topic of prefix sum around here. Maybe if you insist, I will post few more sums in the prefix sum. Yeah, see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.